Good evening and welcome to DSU Debates. My name is Jacob Graham and I'm joined in the studio by my wonderful co-host, Miss Abby Gibson. Tonight we will be discussing the two roles of VP Student Activities and VP of Welfare and Communication here at the Student Union. Unfortunately tonight our expert Augustus couldn't get here, so we will be going straight into the questions this evening. So Abby, what is our first question for the wonderful Silas?
Yes, okay, so good evening, Silence. So the first thing, one thing that you've said in your manifesto is that you want to increase the investment into sports team to encourage growth, and you want to see certain things like that. So how will you use so say you get the investment, how are you going to use that money to achieve that?
Well, the key thing to realise about this point is that I want to spread the funding. So whereas a lot of the funding at the moment is top heavy, and by that I mean it's going to the larger societies and larger sports teams, I feel like there are smaller sports teams which need more advertisement, that need kit themselves, and they're kind of not forgotten about, but I just feel they're not well represented enough amongst this community where their difference can be made. And so with that extra funding, if it's achieved, that would be spread out amongst smaller societies with less people, in order to make sure they don't have to buy their own equipment, and that at the end of the day every student here is paying the same amount of fees, or excluding international students, and so everyone's entitled to the same standard of facilities. So that's, yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, brilliant. Do you think, so say you did say you wanted to spread it, do you think, say, perhaps it's always not possible to spread this to like every sport or every society? Would you be afraid that you might alienate other societies from doing things like that?
Well, no, and I'm keen to make sure that those, obviously I'm not a mind reader, and one key thing is that this has to be a two-way street. So the sports teams and the societies, they have to come to me and say to me, do you know what, we need this, like we're a small sports team, we haven't had funding for long enough, and we need to change this, we need this equipment, we need this funding. And when they come to me, then I can act on that. But the key thing about being a member of this Students' Union is responding to the students' needs, and the only way that happens is if we know what they are.
Okay, wonderful. So we'll move on to you, Lucina. You weren't available to come to the one on Monday, were you? So we sort of said you can come tonight instead. So you sort of, in your manifesto, you want to create a campaign for minority students. So could you just maybe give us a better idea of who these minority students are, except for the obvious minority students?
Okay, so I'm doing a research project at the moment in the SU, where I'm researching the barriers to student participation in societies and leadership roles. And I'm finding repeatedly that there are some students here that aren't represented yet, and these include parent students, commuting students, postgrad students, and part-time students. And they aren't well represented at the university yet, and they don't feel like they can get involved in the societies and clubs as much. And I think that's really sad to hear. Yeah. So I want to make sure that their voices are heard, and that they can have the same opportunities as everyone else to get involved. So I think that we need to be really creative in the way that we are communicating to them, and make sure that they can get involved as much as everyone else.
So were you saying you're sort of going to do this through the creation of extra events, almost, or? Yeah,
so one thing that I want to do is have more promotion events throughout the year. A lot of people have also said to me that if they don't get involved straight away at the start of the year, then they feel like they've lost their chance. And it's not the case, and people need to be more aware of that. They do have opportunities throughout the year to make connections and get involved. So I think that more events throughout the year that are promoting it, but also free taster sessions, for example, they could increase the awareness of societies as well as the participation in them. So I think that's very important.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so moving on to Derek. So your manifesto mentions that you say there's a lack of opportunity for students, and you want to improve inter-faculty events. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by this?
So basically, my main point is that a lot of the time, activities and societies cater for just society students, and the students at large who are not involved in societies don't really get much participation on campus, and so they kind of just linger around university. So my main aim is to have other activities on campus that are not just for society members, but cater for the general students at large. And so by having this inter-faculty activities, we'll be faculty against faculty, and we'll be creating a tally board. So by the end of the year, that the faculty with the highest points I don't know, maybe win extra funding for their end of year projects, or they have a faculty party. Do you get what I mean? Just so every student feels part of it. So with this, I hope to have like a team of faculty ambassadors who then make sure every faculty has people represented for every event we do throughout the year. And then you don't have to be, let's say it was the, I don't know, the egg and spoon race. You can say, you know what, I want to do that, and find a faculty ambassador. You put your name down. You don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to be the best. Do you know what I mean? Just about taking part and building those memories of people you meet.
Yeah. Do you feel though, so like you say, there are a lot of students that don't really get involved with the union and things like that.
Yes.
But a lot of people might just come to university and not really bother about it. So how can you sort of reach out to those students who are like, I haven't got involved with the union on purpose?
I think you have two groups of people. You have those that come to uni with the mindset of, oh, I want to do everything. But then after Freshers Week, that's not there for them, so they give up. You have those that come up and need like a little kick, but they have to see what they're missing, right? And I think if you have that group of people that are doing the activities, the guys who are standing aside will see that, hey, they're having fun. I want to partake of that. Let me join them. Do you get what I mean? But I spoke to one kid yesterday called Leo, and he was saying how he's come from like A-level. In high school, you had your parents, your teachers prompting you, yo, go and do this, go and study, go and do this event, go and do that activity. But you get to uni, no parents and no lecturers are going to push you to do anything. And you've got yourself, right? And I think that's where SU comes in. You have to tell them, hey guys, come and try this, come and try that. At least, you know, kind of give them some kind of prompting and show them what they're missing, and they can then hopefully partake of that.
Okay, lovely. So back to you, Silas. You've also mentioned in your manifesto you want to do a bit of promotion for volunteering opportunities. What promotion is that?
So what I mean by this is kind of building a bridge between the DSU, the Students Union, and the DMU Square Mile, and DMU Local, because these are two projects that DMU hosts, which offer invaluable experience, like opportunities that a lot of students don't realise are there. And I think if we can manage to create a link between the SU and these projects that the university are funding and using, then it will offer the students more opportunities to go to different places and try new things, new work experiences, new volunteering opportunities. And something key to this is DMU Global as well. It's something that's kicked on massively over the last few years, with trips to India, New York, one coming up to Berlin. What I don't see is why we can't use these strongholds to offer students opportunities to go out there and volunteer out there for a long period of time and really immerse themselves in other cultures. It's something that I feel strongly about, because I personally have got family, friends over doing charity work over in Malawi, and I know they could use help. And you know, I think there's a lot of students here that would love to give something back to different cultures or new experiences.
So what would you actually like to do with the promotion? Would you maybe want to get media students involved in making these for part of their coursework assignments? Or even you've got the Demon Media Association who will definitely provide time for you to do this. So is this something that you'd possibly consider doing, to maybe make a TV advert?
Absolutely. I mean, the last DMU TV advert was unbelievably successful, and I was lucky enough to be a part of that. And it was an unbelievable experience, and I truly recommend every student that gets an opportunity to do something like that, to really grasp it with everything that they've got. And yeah, we've got great tools like Demon Media, like media students, like film studies, all of these which give us the opportunity to promote like a global university almost. And I feel like that's the direction that this university is heading, and I want to be someone to take it there.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so moving back to Lucida. So another thing that you said in your manifesto is that you want more space for sports and societies, and I think the obvious question is, where is this space going to be, and how are you going to, get a hold of that?
Okay, so I think that the space that we're in right now, the atrium, during the day, it is used at the moment with a few tables around, but not many students actually come to this part. I've been working in this office for a while, and I've come down every day and I see that this space is really inefficiently used. So I think this could be really used for promotions, really effectively for societies and sports clubs and volunteering opportunities as well. Because, even though it is used during lunch times, it's not used to the full effect. So I think if we could book out this space as well for societies and sports clubs, just as a little bit of space for some activities, even if it's just for the smaller ones, for example, like a gaming society, if they want to come here and book it out, then they can have the opportunity to do that. But then there's also the Art Factory, which when we were over there as the SU, it was really popular booking out the space. And I think that we should bring that back and be able to use that again for societies and sports clubs.
Okay, wonderful. So over to you, Derek, again. You talk about female participation in sports teams. Obviously, with Varsity coming up, where DME Media does a lot of coverage over this. So this is obviously something that we're very interested in, and we do have quite a few female anchors who would be very interested in commentating on female sports. But how are you going to increase the female participation
in sports? Okay, so this year I was here when we launched This Girl Can in March, and I think afterwards I was like, why is it only being done now? You know, people needed to sign into societies and clubs from September. So that the aim of increasing female participation in sports is to start it from the get-go, and have the speeches and the seminars from even at summer matriculation. Because a lot of the girls I feel have the need to and want to get involved. I have my own friends like, oh, Derek, I wish I was playing netball. I wish I was doing athletics. I wish I was doing so and so and so. But no one really prompted them. Do you know what I mean?
So it's like when you've been approaching
candidates and so my own personal friends as well throughout the whole week.
Have you noticed that a lot of female students have said to you that they really love this idea from you?
So I even mentioned on there about the on my manifesto about the Olympics. It was like, I just start training this summer. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of people are excited about it, but I think without the prompting and the urging to get them to do it, everyone's kind of like, I'll just sit here and wait, and, nothing's happening, and that's the kind of attitude I want to get rid of.
That is one thing I want. When I read your manifesto, you said about the Olympics. Can you sort of, because I mean, we have varsity already. Is it different to this? Like, how would that work?
So the Olympics would be a few athletics activities and a few house activities. So the three-legged race, the sack race, the egg and spoon race, the obstacle course, 100 meters, 200, nothing above 800 because they're just asking for work. Do you know what I mean? But just general sports activities that anyone could do without practicing, just to increase the morale and the happiness and is the general engagement of students around campus, which my proposed venue would be at the Saffron Lane Athletics Park, just because it's just around the corner and we can get there easily and make a field day out of it.
Okay, wonderful. So I think we've definitely got a better insight of your manifestos there. But now it's time to get some questions from the student body. So on Monday, I went out with the candidates who were actually campaigning from 10 a.m. that day, and we spoke to a lot of students out there who really wanted to ask some questions to their new future presidents and vice presidents of the Students' Union. So the first question that we received, that is obviously very specific to you guys who are going to be going into the activities role. Many would like to see reduced fees for the sporting clubs and also the activities. So how are you going to address these concerns that many students really have? I know personally for me, I don't know if you probably heard me on the other debate, it was something that they also talked about and they didn't really have any idea how to combat this. So let's put it in a sort of perspective of I don't really have time to do a lot of sporting activities, but I might have a friend who comes down and we just want to go play a game of badminton in the Queen Elizabeth Leisure Centre. How will you make it possible for me to do this without having to pay the membership fee, just if I want to go and play badminton for an hour? So, we just want to start with you,
Well, firstly, I think it's important to notice the effect that Campus 330 has had in allowing people to try new sports and kind of trial and taste these things that they've not done before. But also, in your example, you might want to play badminton more than once. Over a year, you might want to. It might not be something you just want to trial. And with the cost of them, I mean, obviously, it's not free for anybody to go and use like the sports gym or anything like that. And it's also.
Do you not think it should be, maybe, as DMU students? Because we do pay £9,000 a year, and with the possibility of them going up, even though at the minute it has been capped to the 9,000 again, what if it goes up again next year to an extra 9,250? That is still very expensive for a student, so we can't afford always to go and pay these membership fees that they have in the leisure centres.
No, I completely agree. It's I mean, the cost of studying at universities is almost non-negotiable. Everybody knows the situation when they sign up to come into university, and it's something that you just have to accept. I mean, my proposal would be that you kind of rent a court. So for quite cheap.
Okay,
So
yeah.
you could go into the sports office and go, look, I want to play badminton on Thursday morning.
Yeah.
They'll be like, okay, there's availability. If you pay a £5 deposit and £2 each, we'll let you both in, and you can use the courts for half an hour. You don't make it expensive, but at the same time you make it so that nobody's losing out. The university aren't losing out on money, and it combats both sides of the issue. So kind of put a minimal price on.
So would you maybe consider doing this, because at the minute a lot of students can book like rooms online. So we've got the room booking system. Is that something we could possibly extend to the leisure centre?
Yeah, so like used in the library with the syndicate rooms and the individual study rooms. Yeah, so you should be able to go in and see, okay, I can't use it Monday to Wednesday, but then on Thursday till 12 o'clock it's free. So I'm going to book a slot. It's going to cost me £10 for 2 hours for 2 courts. It's not extortionate amount of money, and I mean, I know you might not have £10 right there, right then, and you still might want to play badminton, but at some point you gotta kind of agree that come to some kind of deal that it's not going to be free. It can't be free. You've got wages to pay. But at the same time, we want to do this, and we want to kind of keep it to a cost that's minimal to the student.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and any more thoughts on that?
I also think that the active card at the moment, it's £40 to join a sports club, and I don't think enough students know where that is going. So I think that we need to make that more transparent for students, because then they may become more aware of actually where the money is going. So then they might think, oh, actually, it's a good idea. Or they might think, no, I don't want to pay that. So it helps them make that decision for themselves. And yeah, I agree as well, like, it's impossible to get it for free for students. That's just not realistic. You have to be realistic if you're going to go for this role. But I do want to keep it as cheap as possible, because we want to get people involved. We want people here fit and healthy. And if they want to join in sports as well, that's a great activity to get involved and meet friends. And yeah, I just want to make it as kind of viable as possible for everyone to get involved.
Okay, so talking about that activity card, that's still £40 in quite a lump sum.
Yeah.
And although that is at the start of freshers, what if you decide midway through January, when a lot of students are burning through their student loan very quickly and realising that student loan is not easy to live on at all? Is there maybe a possibility for a payment method, or?
I think that would definitely be a good option, yeah, because I know personally that is one of the barriers that put me off getting involved in sports, because it is a large amount of money, and especially for somebody who's maybe coming from a background that doesn't have a lot of money, and they're more wary of where they spend their money, that can be difficult to overcome. So I definitely think that there should be more options in place for paying that £40.
Okay, yeah, wonderful. And Derek, do you have anything to add?
Personally, I think that £40 is a lot of money. I didn't buy an active card in first year, second year because of that. Because I was like, yeah, I'll enjoy football, £40. I was like, you know what? So I'll play down the park with my friends. And I think that payment to learn turns a lot of people away from DSU activities, because it's like, why should I pay that much when I can have a kickabout for free? You know. So I think before even asking the question, I was thinking of maybe paying per term. So first term maybe £10 to be part of a sport club, and if you carry on, you make that payment. But in terms of just general payments for, let's say, using the Q2 gym, it's a bit too much. Last year I'd go and play basketball with my friends. Every time you have to make a booking and make a payment for it. And I think the reason why the SU have to charge for every little kind of money they can get is because they don't have enough funding themselves. And I think more funding can come from having more events. Do you get what I mean? So if the events I plan to do next year, let's make them cheap as £1, £2 for little events that we're going to be doing, so that we have more funds to limit the big things and put the prices down. And I think we're having more funds that you can say, you know what, all right, from 12 p.m. to, as Cyrus was saying, 12 p.m. to maybe 6, to use the gym is free. Then maybe after 6 o'clock.
For all DMU students, all you need is just have your card, your student card, and you get free access to all the facilities at the QE2, say, on a Monday evening.
Yeah. And then maybe during peak hours where the public use it a lot, you can say, cool, it's like maybe £1.50. Yeah. You know, or maybe, so it's something to make it easier for students to just, because already, as I said, they're paying so much money to be here and then to enjoy themselves, they have to pay more money. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, so another one for you that students have been asking was with career fairs. So obviously DMU really push on employability and put on things like this, but a lot of them are disheartened when they go because they feel like it's just for third years. You know, it's like people trying to recruit graduates and things. How would you like to resolve this to make sort of these events more accessible to all the student body? Like, anyone?
So something that I've not been to a careers fair. Sorry, guys. I've just never, like, I've wanted to go, but I've never felt almost confident enough to walk in there and try and sell myself to all these, like, employers. And I think it's something that a lot of students suffer with, that maybe they don't have the self-confidence as a first year or as a second year to walk around and try and sell themselves. And I think that's something that's got to come from probably us as the Students' Union, hopefully next year, and say to them, do you know what? Go to these career fairs. Go and show your interest and express from early that you want placements, that you want employability afterwards. This university is one of the best universities in the country for employability.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is the careers fair and the employability fairs and the employability team in Gateway House. So if that's not shown to the first years and second years, then we're failing as a university, because it's one of our great successes, and it's something that we need to spread around halls, and we need to make, you know, all these private companies that own the halls, they need to be promoting it as well, because I think they have a duty of care to their students that they're letting to go, do you know what, like, you're letting this for a reason, you're at university for a reason, and the reason is you want to develop yourself as a person and get a good job when you leave. And they need to be informed as well that these career fairs are on, when they're on, where they are, and really get people from stage one attending. That's really important.
But building on that further, I mean, me personally, I'm part of the Health and Life Sciences department, and for a lot of courses there, you have to attend these events to be able to actually pass your year. If you don't attend these, you can fail, and then you've got to redo the year just from simply not attending these events. I've attended both the events that have been on, and although, yes, it has been useful to actually see what is out there, there's nothing there for me to actually put my name down, because they're only looking for fourth year pharmacy students. What's there for the first years who are trying to get a bit of a look and see what's happening? Maybe is like the possibility of getting companies who specialise in internships in for over summer? Are you wanting to interject?
Yeah, I think there has to be like some kind of direction. So I went to the careers fair in my final year, so this year I didn't go the past 2 years because I knew what I was looking for, right? So I said that then to make it quite clear that if we're doing those career fairs, is to either talk to employers about, okay, what do you guys require, so that when I get to third year and I'm applying for grad schemes, I know what to look for. But I think we need to maybe come up with a scheme that kind of separates the two. That okay, if you're going for first year, second years, here's what you ask, here's what you're going to do. Whereas for third years, okay, go and talk to them about and ask them who they're looking to hire. But I think, so I spoke to one guy yesterday who said, oh, can we do more things to build confidence and how to dress well, how to speak well for employability. So we have more events in-house that kind of nurture these employability skills. And then maybe then, okay, after that point, send them to career fairs so they kind of have something to kind of work from and build up towards too, than to just kind of leave them to go and do these career fairs on their own.
Okay, and Lucina, what do you think about this?
Well, this is actually something that's on my manifesto.
Yeah.
I want to give students employability advice, not only related to student activities, because students gain amazing skills while they're doing these activities, and a lot of students don't know how to convey that, and a lot of students don't even realise that they're gaining skills along the way. But I also think that in terms of careers fairs, for first and second years, volunteering is a massive part of that. I know that I attended quite a few of the careers fairs as a first and second year, and it turned out to be really useful for me, because I was finding volunteering opportunities throughout the years that I could do there and then in order to gain employability skills. So I think we need a bigger emphasis on that as well. There definitely needs to be more awareness of those opportunities available to us.
So how will you almost promote those opportunities then? Are you going to do more sort of employability events? Obviously, there's that idea.
Yeah, definitely.
But then obviously that goes back to the very start, that these aren't always available and useful for first and second years. So what sort of events specifically for first and second years will you target?
Well, I really want to create a volunteering fair, which is very much like the freshers fairs and societies fairs. but it's just for volunteering, which is going to be very well known. It's going to be big on campus, and people can come and have a look and see all of these charities and organisations that are offering these opportunities. I mean, here at DSU we've got hundreds of connections with them, but at the moment you've got to go on the website to find them. So if they could come to us, which I know a lot of people would be interested in because they want more volunteers as well, it's a two-way relationship. We're building that bridge. So if they could come to us and show the students what they're all about, and then the students can show them what they're all about, then it works.
Okay, so just your last question here. Many students, obviously with the SU, it's sort of like a student council for university students in one sense, but you sort of have a bit more power. But many students voiced the concern that they will feel like they're at student council again, where they don't get listened to and they get stamped down quite regularly because obviously they're in high school or they're in primary school and they don't always get to voice their opinions. So will you actually listen to what students want to do and hear what they're saying and actually be able to give them sound advice that will possibly help them even if they can't necessarily do exactly what they want to do?
So one of the things that I aimed at when I was writing my manifesto was not to come up with all these, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, because that's not how I see this role. How I see this role is, I'm not going to say I'm going to do everything under the sun and then not do it. I'm going to wait for you to come and say to me, I need you to do this. This is what we want. I want this. So
you want us to be approaching culture of...
Yeah, I want us to be open. I want us to be able to, I want us to feel like the SU, to feel like somewhere, you know, it could be the smallest thing in the world, but if you come here and you talk to us, you never know, it might make the difference. It could be that you can't attend a lecture and it's like, you know, if you don't attend, you're going to get...
almost like a red mark.
A red mark or something, and you could just come to us and just be like, look, I just can't do it. Like, my timetabling is all wrong, and I just can't make it. And then we can come and help you. We can help you with that. Like, it needs to be something where we're not telling them what we're going to do, because that's not our role. Our role is to do what the students want us to do and to represent them as well and as fully as we can. And that's how I see it anyway.
So on to you.
Yeah, I'm completely the same with you. I agree with you there. I've built my manifesto because I spoke to hundreds of students before writing it, because I wanted to make a clear view of what they actually wanted. And I kind of made it so it was realistic goals as well, so that I know that I can listen to them, but not only listen to them, but I can act on it.
Okay. So obviously this week you've been campaigning to these students who possibly may or may not have given you these ideas. Have you actually seen them all been taken very well by them whilst you've been campaigning outside, or have there been people who've been very sceptical about what you'll actually be able to achieve?
That's it. A lot of people have been very positive, but I have actually had some students debate with me, and I absolutely love that.
Okay,
I love the fact that they questioned me. They questioned where I was going to put the space. They questioned how I was going to sort out the fair funding. And I really enjoyed having that debate with them. And then by the end of it, they turned around and they were like, actually, that is feasible. It's going to be, if you're elected, it will be done. And they have confidence in me for that, so it's good. Okay,
wonderful. So on to you, Derek. Just earlier on today, I was out there just having a quick survey of the area, and you've obviously got quite a few people who are on your side, and you've got help campaigning as well. So have you heard anything back from these people about the positives and negatives of your manifesto that you think you could possibly either change or further improve on?
I'll talk about the positives first. So with my campaign, as it says, making SU for everyone. So essentially, I've said that everyone came to university with a certain vision, like a certain aspect, so they expected something from university. And with everyone speaking to us, I asked them the first question: what did you expect from SU before you came to university? And what do you think of it now in comparison? And I think maybe about 5 people said what they expect is what they're getting. A lot of the time, we all came to university to meet different people, to meet different cultures, have fun, learn skills, and make dreams I can tell children about, like, oh, uni, I did this, I did this, I did that. But a lot of the time, the SU don't provide those opportunities for people to meet and build those memories. So that's the positive thing I found from my campaign, is that everyone I've spoken to was like, do you know what I mean? And that kind of confirms with me that, okay, what I'm planning to do is what people want. And the negatives have been people asking, okay, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that?
So almost like the debate style of it.
Yeah, so almost as if, well, that's too good to be true. How are you going to plan Olympics? The SU don't even have money. And I've then gone ahead to tell them how I plan to do that, because I would say, where there's a will, there's a way. Right? And if the students feel the need that they need to do these things to have fun, we're going to achieve it through being a good team.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. So very quickly, this is the end of your debate. Very well done on your,
Thank you.
what you've said here. I believe you've done very well. So if you'd like to quickly address the camera just with a small, short statement about what you feel you can bring here.
So my name's Silas Gardner. I want you to feel like you can come to me and ask me what you want, and I can then go ahead and make it happen in the most realistic sense possible. I also want you just to vote. Whether it's for me, whether it's for these two, the most important thing is that your voice is heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Lucina Wild, and I really want a more inclusive student societies and sports clubs and volunteering. I want to get everyone involved, including the people who aren't represented at the moment, and that comes with fair funding, more space, committee election help as well, and training to further that experience. And a more focus on employability skills that can be gained through being in an activity.
Okay, wonderful. And finally on to you, Derek.
So my name is Derek, and essentially I just want us to build amazing memories with our uni experience. It's time that we kind of start to live in that dream. I think for far too long we've idolized American movies and how they have fun at uni and how they do this and this and that. I think it's time we started having some more activities in UK and building those memories. So if you believe I'm the candidate, please go and vote. And thank you.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the candidates this evening, and that is student activities over for this year. So this is now up into your hands completely. Voting does close on Friday at 2 p.m, so do get your votes in as soon as possible, especially for student activities. But now we're just doing a small break, and we will get the people from VP Welfare and Community in, so we'll be back in a second. Go, go, go!
Yeah, well done.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well, so we are joined here by the current candidates, well, the rest of the candidates for VP Welfare and Communication, Tiffany and Lucy. How are you both this evening?
Yeah, not too bad.
Not too nervous, are you? We're not stressing you out. So, if you're ready, we'll crack on then.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we'll start. Do you
Yeah,
wanna
so
start?
we're going to start off with Lucy. So first of all, we're looking at your manifesto. You talk about welfare boxes, you know, for freshers and people moving in. While a lovely idea, is there room sort of in the SU's budget to do this for everyone? Is this a big priority for you?
I think for that I will include like condoms, which obviously we can get for free from there. It'll be like numbers for like Samaritans, mines, like numbers you might need when you're in a crisis. It's not like necessarily stuff that is going to have an expense. It's going to be mainly like stuff for charities, stuff that you might need throughout the year.
Okay, wonderful. So you've got quite a few good ideas there, I think, definitely. And I think one of your other, one of the other candidates wanted to provide free condoms.
Yeah.
And that's something similar to what you're wanting to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we sort of questioned her with, that's the whole idea of what sexual health clinics are for. So what is
Yeah.
it that you're going to do instead compared to the NHS in that sense?
I think like obviously the NHS can provide it constantly. You can get a C card, but this will just be something that, and it will have information on the C card, so I can work with the Choices Clinic here
Yeah.
and say, look, we have loads of freshers coming in, could we include like, because I know you have to fill out a form,
Yeah.
include the form, include the first pack of condoms, and then leave it to them to like be able to sign up for that and get the rest of them.
So you're also wanting to suggest it as like an emergency method of getting access to this type of contraception?
Yeah, because obviously
Yeah.
Freshers Week, a lot of people, they're settling in and getting drunk, you know.
So I'm having a few
Yeah.
shenanigans every now and again. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you. Tiffany, on to you. You said you'd like to provide anonymous forums for people to be able to report inappropriate behaviour and almost sexual violence towards themselves. What? Could you just talk a bit more about this for us, please?
So first of all, there's a place called Nightline. So a lot of my manifesto and campaign is about promoting things that people don't know exist, that
Yeah.
already exist. So Nightline is a fantastic thing that you can ring up and you can talk to them, or they can come and get you if you're feeling unsafe. And in terms of the forum, it's quite awkward sometimes to talk to the police.
Yeah.
So like my dad's a policeman, and I know like he's probably the last person I'd want to go and see in a situation like that. Whereas if at university we could spend some of the funding that we're given, so for example a lot of t-shirts were bought last year, and although they promote the uni, I think if that funding was redirected to sort of an online forum and some agony aunt type people, volunteers even, so that you could just openly vent, maybe even anonymously, it might take away that embarrassing factor, and we can start to get people more open to the fact that they need to do something about it.
So how would this kind of thing be run then? Is this going to be like student run? Is it going to be staff run? You're going to bring people in? Like, what's the idea?
So it's kind of half and half, which I think is great with the SU. It's not just about staff or students, it's about everybody. So I've had a lot of people already volunteer to be a part of it and to stay up. They said they're nocturnal anyway, so they're quite happy to talk to people. And I think it's just sort of about helping each other out when and where you can, and knowing that welfare is up there and I'm up there, and if you wanted to come talk to me, even if you don't know me, like I'm happy to sit to one side and stay after work and listen to you, because that's more important than going home 5 minutes earlier. Like.
Okay, so if you're saying that you've not got a problem almost staying behind after work, is this not sort of maybe a gateway for you to get into a style where you're not looking after your own welfare? Because this is obviously going to be a very stressful job for you to undertake, as I'm sure you're probably aware. You're becoming responsible for almost 10,000 students' welfare at the end of the day. But where do you sit in this? So what happens if, for some reason, you come down with something which means you can't continue the work for, say, 3 months or so? What's going to happen then?
So this is why it's sort of a teamwork situation, where you have the staff and the students working together to help each other. So with the anonymous forum, it's not about certain people being almost in charge. It's about students logging in to talk to other students who have also logged in. So one of the people I was talking to said that she would log in, and even if someone started speaking to her about her problems, that they could almost share the experience. So it's kind of like a messenger, but anonymous.
So it's sort of similar to maybe, it's not like a standard Nightline style thing of a call centre in the middle of an area, more just someone who sits at home maybe for an hour. It's like sets an alarm for 3 a.m. and works a 3 till 5 shift,
and it's completely
answering
up to
questions.
Just sort of, not even answering questions, but just listening. Because I think that's the biggest thing sometimes, is that sometimes in life you want to vent. And you don't want to vent to someone you know, because you're just not really comfortable with it. So the best thing you can do is, if everyone's logged on, kind of like Facebook Messenger but without the names, you can vent to someone you don't know and they can vent back, and you can kind of deal with it together. And I think that is what needs to happen at uni, is that everyone needs to realise they're in it together.
So would it sort of be a bit similar to, like, obviously there was the messaging system Omegle, where you put in your interests and then you got matched up with people? Would this be similar? So at the start of it, would there maybe be a question of like putting keywords like anxious?
With that as well, can you tackle sort of, you know what people like on the internet? This can be to both of you. Like, how can you handle that kind of anonymous troll type of thing if any student can log on?
So it's the same way as any sort of forum that you get. It's sort of based on a report policy. So if you were to report to the place that this had happened by a certain person, we could obviously investigate that and stop it from happening. But I think from the students that I've spoken to, most of them are for helping each other and for stopping these problems. And I think sometimes you have to rely on human decency. And that's hard in this modern day, but I think it is around, and it's a fantastic thing.
Well, so moving back to you now, Lucy. Again, so much on your manifesto is definitely you have the students' best interests at heart. There's no doubt about that. Another thing that you said was shorter waiting time for counselling. And again, if you've talked about this, how is this going? What's the plan with this kind of thing?
Well, basically, I want to improve the counselling service a lot. So that will be by making sure everyone has a mandatory induction, so everyone knows it's there. This will obviously mean that there's more people wanting a service. So I think, I know that we just got a new counsellor this year, but maybe working with other, because there's something called like the Nottingham, I don't know what it's called, but you can like refer yourself. So maybe having our counselling service do like initial appointments, seeing what's best, and then having then refer them to like the Nottingham service, the doctors, other places that they can go, and then or referring them to like maybe like a crisis team, like other stuff.
So you sort of want to do something similar to what happens in A&E, sort of like the red light system of, is this a life-threatening situation, or is this something that can be dealt with at a later stage? Sort of what from I understand, but obviously mental health, it's very hard because there's no physical symptoms, if you understand what I mean. So how are we going to prioritise this?
At the minute, when you book a counselling appointment, obviously you fill in details and you say how you're feeling. I think a lot of the time people are feeling really bad and they need that appointment, and then they feel better and they've got the appointment like 3 weeks later when they feel okay. So I think definitely having the appointment, like shortening the appointment time is going to be a lot better. And they can, like when you see a doctor, they say, how bad are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like you can't do anything. Obviously having that kind of scale so that you know, and obviously like higher numbers being prioritised, but not pushing the smaller numbers back, because obviously every problem's important.
Okay, wonderful. So back to you, Tiffany. The equality for all students, is there anything specific that you want to bring in, or is it more just quite a broad equality?
So mainly it's just about promoting everyone attending together. So I found that like this year when I've attended sort of like LGBT rallies, or when I've attended international student rallies, that most of the students there are international students, or they're part of the LGBT society. But I found that like it's not being promoted as much to everybody else. And I think, like I said before, it's kind of the unity of students rather than it is just individual societies. And I think that the rallies need to be sort of like equality rallies rather than, you know, like a rally for international students. It's a rally for everybody to be together at once. And I think that's really important.
Do you not think that that might perhaps, some people might be like, that sort of belittles what it is about, you know? So, you know, we do have like a Pride Month, and, you know, we do celebrate international students, but do we not already do that for a purpose?
Yeah, and it's working very well and very successfully. But I think the way to get more students in is to make people realise that they also need to be there. So, for example, like a lot of my friends won't go to international rallies because they're not facing that problem. But I think if people realise working together makes the problem better. So a lot of my campaign is about making noise. It's about talking about things and talking about problems.
It's always bringing all these problems to the surface so that people actually realise these are huge problems.
Yeah, so this week especially I've been talking to students a lot about the figures of rape and assault on campus. And although a lot of students immediately stop and they're like, what? And it's because people just haven't heard about them and they haven't spoken about it. And I think that's it, it's just noise. We need noise.
Yeah, definitely. Back to you, Lucy, again. With your sort of, again, like, going back to your manifesto, there's so much you want to put on. Like, you know, you want to reduce stress with yoga sessions, you want free massages and sports and therapy. And while it's really lovely, but when we look at like everything that you're proposing, do you think that's realistic? Do you think you'll be able to put on all of that?
I think a lot of the stuff are quite simple to do. So like the housing website, that can just be done and then obviously maintained, but it's not that much effort. Then just having, obviously we have volunteering, so a lot of the stuff can be done by volunteers. So leading like guided mindfulness walks, like yoga, like that can all be led by students. So I think a lot of the stuff, it's not really out there, like it's stuff that is feasible.
So with your, like both of your campaigns really, we're looking at more focusing, getting our own students to help each other. And not relying on people above us in that sense, really becoming a little almost like faction inside the university that is self-reliant.
How are you going to be able to sort of push this then? You know, are you going to sort of advertise it as like an employability opportunity, or is it a volunteering opportunity? I mean, like with things like this, you've got to, it's all well and good saying it's going to be student-led, but where are the students? I mean,
so, I mean, in all honesty, and I think you'd agree with this week, speaking to students, people are willing to volunteer to help with these issues, especially because they're so close to them. Like the security guy, for example, who works over in that building, he literally said, right, I will happily set up a taekwondo lesson every week for free as long as people want to come and learn. And I think like with yours as well, it's just a case of people want to help. It's just that they haven't got an opportunity to do it. So all you have to do is offer them the opportunity and they will take it.
Yeah. Is
Because
that what you
everyone-
found as well?
Yeah, I
then,
think that's shown as well because we have like a record number of volunteering hours logged this year. So like people do want to volunteer. It's like good for their CV. So like it logs into
It's a win-win.
employability.
Yeah.
You might as well do
Okay.
it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for those manifesto questions.
That's okay.
So we've heard what they have to say regarding what they actually want to bring in the next year when they get the position. But we're now going to go to some student questions who really wanted to get their answers for themselves, not just a broad answer for the entire student population. Now, these questions are something that will possibly apply to you at home. So the first one that we have for both of you is, again, regarding mental health. Aside the policies you've already mentioned, what do you propose for bringing in? Because we've had a student who came to us who was very unfortunate in that one of the members of their flat committed suicide earlier on this year, and it has left its mark on them. So what do you aim to provide for the students who are in that flat with the student who unfortunately committed suicide?
Yeah, so I think, like you said, it's about setting up more counselling and faster counselling. But on top of that, it's kind of about being there for each other within the flat. So a lot of the time people will come in and they'll say, you know, like the counselling's not happening fast enough. And I say to them, you know, although that's hard to do and it's hard to change, what you can do is help each other. Sort of come to welfare and tell us about the problems, or go to someone and tell them, and then they can help you and you can talk to each other. And it's kind of like the online forum, like sometimes you just need to talk to each other and to discuss it. And although counselling does take a while, hopefully whoever wins this race, and whichever one of us or one of the 7 members, 8 members running, can take all of these things into account.
Okay.
And I think that's the most important thing. It's not really about who wins, it's just about raising the issues and making some noise.
Okay. And then
Yeah, I think maybe having like specific workshops. So that's something I wanted to lobby for like student nurses. But in situations like this, when people say like have PTSD or like, obviously everyone's mental health problems are different. And I think going to a counsellor, sometimes it kind of like makes it into one thing.
Yeah.
So if you like working with a counsellor and making like the group go together and kind of like provide like group like therapy, stuff like that. Because I think obviously they're all going through the same thing,
Yeah.
but they're all going to handle it differently. But then I think talking about it in the open with a counsellor is going to help them, because like obviously expressing yourself is a good way to like help yourself feel better.
Also, there's been some fantastic things this year already, which we can carry on with. So like there was a petting zoo outside of campus, and it was like feeling stressed, pet a chicken.
Yeah.
And like it made my day, like even
Yeah.
though it was little. And I think we can carry on with that good work.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in my manifesto because Kira has done such a fantastic job of it, that all we need to do is just keep going.
Well, that was one thing I was going to bring, obviously, when Kira brought in like animals and like guide dog puppies and things like that. It was such a success, so much that a student even said a puppy room for stress, which obviously would be brilliant. So we, like you said, would you both want to build on something like that?
That's in my mind, like the part of the stress busting thing was like bringing puppies onto campus. I know that Kira did have some like struggles getting it, but I think like pet therapy is so important. Like
Yeah.
I feel so much better when I go home and see my dog, and I know like so many people do. So I think it is worth to do stuff like that. And obviously not everyone's going to relate to puppies, because some people might hate dogs. So making sure there's activities for everyone, which is like why I wanted to do like yoga and like mindfulness walks and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
There's also ways around it. So there's a website called Borrow My Doggy, which is basically a website where you can go online and look after someone's dog for an afternoon. So again, I think if the uni just found these things and promoted them,
Yeah.
students would be so much less stressed. Like I rented a puppy the other day. I just took him for a walk and then I gave him back.
Wonderful. Well, going back to these puppy rooms just about stress, the particular thing that they brought up was during exam season, which is something we're coming up to very shortly, isn't it? Obviously, I think these people don't want it as a permanent fixture, more just somewhere that local rescue centres could bring in dogs for an afternoon once a week for students to go and possibly have a play with. Is this something that you could possibly find a location for, or do you think it's not maybe as feasible?
Exactly, where's the practicality of it all? Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
so
if a lot of students show up, because judging it, and as I was asking the people, there was a lot of people who did have the same belief as this student. So we can't suddenly have a massive 500 students appear in the centre of SU to pet 10 dogs. So what way around, how can we get around that problem?
So the system last year was quite good, and I've done a couple of things like that in my volunteering, basically you set a timing system and they can either go online or come in and say what time they're going to come, and then everyone takes it in turns. So that worked really well. I don't see a reason to change that because it was fantastic and it ran so smoothly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that's the best idea, or like raffle ticket, not like so you come and get a number and then you just wait your turn, because obviously.
Yeah. Another issue that students have, so some students have courses like very long, like hours, like they could start at 9 a.m. and not be leaving till like midnight because they've got so much work to do. How can we sort of tackle, I mean, the whole having working long hours on courses is another issue altogether, but how can we tackle sort of the stress that they're feeling as well? Because I mean, those are some long hours that people are pushing.
yeah, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think like promoting regular breaks is very important. Obviously, having like fresh fruit and veg, not veg, you don't want veg, just fresh fruit like available in the walk in the library, because obviously a lot of them spend time in the library. I know we've recently got microwaves in the SU, but like the library's a bit funny with hot food, so I think it's encouraging them to get out of the library, like go take a walk outside, and like with my manifesto having the stress busting activities, so they could go do a yoga session or they could go to take a mindfulness walk and just doing stuff like that, but making sure people aren't like in there for blocks of time.
Yeah, so a lot of supermarkets throw away a lot of fruit, especially because it's misshapen or it's not as pretty. So like they're quite happy to sell you that fruit for places like Montfort to give out every day, or just maybe even on one day, the last day of the week. That's what my manifesto was partially about, was free fruit Fridays to get a little boost. And also, having given some fruit out this week, people just smile at the fact that they're getting it. But on top of that, like sometimes lecturers just need to give breaks. So I have a master's class and it's 4 hours long, and sometimes we don't always get a break because they forget. So it's just sort of like a 15-minute thing here or there, 10 minutes to go and just walk around.
Well, this student specifically, when I was speaking to her, she was on a arts and design course, specifically something to do with fashion. And she started her day at 9 a.m. and she said tutors would be with her until about 12 o'clock. And obviously they have a large amount of work to do. So even though the tutor has left at 12, they're still in the building until midnight, but there's no facility for them to cook themselves any food. The tutors have their kitchens. Is there not maybe the possibility for these to be opened up to students, or even for welfare to just walk around and hand out things that maybe the students don't have time to leave their work desk to do?
So absolutely, with the microwaves, in our building, our lecturers and us had a little chat, and they actually decided it was okay for us to use their staff office. So we're allowed to use their microwave, and I think that's the first step, is to just talk to them and explain the situation. And a lot of the time, they're okay with it, as long as you're tidy and you're sort of thoughtful about other people, that's fine. And in the terms of us handing things out, like, we're happy to do that. We just need to know what you want, really. Like, if you want fruit or sweets, like, let us know. I mean, I've been handing out cakes and sweets and fruit. It's very easy to do, and it's very cheap. I think I made 200 cakes for £6. So it's not that expensive, and it's not that hard.
Obviously, though, with that, the student union does have an obligation almost legally, and with that you've got to have things like hygiene certificates to be able to do this properly, especially if it is for charity, because then if anything goes wrong and say a student falls ill, it's then you're legally responsible. So with your position, does this mean that you're going to have to introduce dedicated students who get these welfare jobs and give them the hygiene certificate and then the appropriate areas to do this baking in? Because I think the local council would possibly have a bit of a problem with someone doing it at home.
Yeah, so in basis of that, first of all, we have kitchens here, which are hygiene rated and are safe. And a lot of the funding currently is spent on things that maybe aren't as important, so it's about prioritising. So, for example, some of the things they hand out, like a free condom that you can get from the NHS, if we're spending money on that, then you can redirect that money to somewhere else, like fruit or sweets. And those are both hygienically friendly, that you can get from any shop to brighten someone's day. And I feel like they probably appreciate it a little bit more, maybe, than some of the things that they do offer currently. So it's just about change, really.
Do you have anything to add just regarding that? Because obviously this is something that you probably have a similar passion for. So how would you respond to this? Because obviously we'd have to pay for hygiene certificate examinations, which aren't cheap.
Yeah.
They are relatively expensive, especially for a student to do. So how would you fund this out of that £8,000?
Yeah. I'm not really sure if that's the route like I would go down. I think like with art and design subjects, they all kind of congregate in one room. You have like kind of a common room, like I do photography, and there's like a base room. I think like we could just provide microwaves in there, and like because at my old university, I went to Plymouth University, we had microwaves in there, and that was like in a kettle, you can make a cup of tea, and like just providing them basics, and then they can just like it can be open till midnight, and you can access them.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for answering those questions about that. We're just going to give you a short time just to address the camera about what you'd like to bring to the university. So whoever would like to start, come here for us.
Yeah, so I guess most of my work is about promoting things that exist, but it's just making people more aware that the problems aren't fixed. So a lot of men don't know that they get attacked or assaulted. 1 in 8 men and 1 in 3 women are across UK campuses. And it's just about being more aware for each other. So it's making some noise and making people talk about something that's uncomfortable so that people can be aware they need to fight back and need to talk about it and report it and just help their friends if it happens to them, because it's not a secret. And that's it really, it's just noise, make some noise.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the majority of my manifestos can be mentioned, but I want to make sure that the counselling service is improved so that obviously a lot of people I think drop out because of mental health issues, and that will decrease the dropout rate, which will obviously be better for the university. So it's definitely something that they should put funding into. And also creating a housing website, so if you fall out with your flatmate halfway through the year, you need to like move somewhere quick, it will give you advice on like getting out of contracts, like if you can't pay rent, and it will have room listings where you can like meet your like flatmates. Then also physiotherapy on campus for sports teams, because like if you're in a sport team, it's kind of a big deal for your university life, and if you get an injury, you suddenly can't play that sport, so that can play into a lot more mental health issues. So they're my few main points.
Thank you very much. So this has been the end of this debate. You have listened to both teams of VP Welfare and Communication now, which means it is completely open for you to vote yourself. If you head to the Montfort Student Union website, you can vote there. Voting does close on Friday at 2 p.m, so do make sure you get your votes in. So I'd just like to thank the candidates once again. You were both very strong in it, and definitely you made some really, really good points. I'd definitely say that, and I wish you all the best of luck in the rest of your campaigning. So we will be back tomorrow evening at the usual time of 6 o'clock. We will be talking to the final two. It is the rest of, oh goodness, I've just forgotten. Media and Communications and VP Education. And we'll be talking to Martins as well, because we have some special questions for him, because we believe he's been treated a bit unfairly during this campaign. So tune in tomorrow at 6 p.m. Thank you and good night.